Welcome to ISKCON Silicon Valley. Thank you so much for our Kirtaniyas. We've all heard so many pastimes of Lord Ramacandra. How many of you know that pastimes of Lord Ramacandra are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam? Many of you know. Shukadeva Goswami, he didn't have that long to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, only 7 days and nights. So, and he heard, and it was a big story to hear about the whole universe and all the incarnations. So, Parikshit Maharaj didn't have the time to hear. So Shukadeva only gave him some short description. Jagarini. Yeah, please move close. My eyes are not so good, I want to see your faces. Also in the beginning of the 7th canto, Narad Muni tells Yudhishthira Maharaj about how Jai and Vijay had been cursed to take birth in 3 births, and that Lord Rama came to relieve them of their curse by killing Ravana and Kumbhakarna, who were actually Jai and Vijay. But he said, you should better hear about that from Markandeya Rishi. And then he told about Lord Narasringadev. So, we don't have that long, even less time than Parikshit Maharaj, because we have a program and a schedule. We'd love to stay for 7 days, but I'd want to read from chapter 10, Canto 9, chapter 10, text number 3. Actually, there are so many nice verses and purports by Srila Prabhupada about the pastimes and glories of Lord Ramacandra. So maybe we'll read a few of them, and I won't speak so much. Please repeat after me. Tasyanu charitang rajan Rishibhis tatpadarshibhihi Shrutang hi varnitang puri Tvaya sita pater muhu. Translation, O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramacandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth. Because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramacandra, the husband of Mother Sita, I shall describe these activities in brief. Only in brief. Please listen. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Modern Rakshasas, posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramacandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced will never accept such notions. They will accept the descriptions of Lord Ramacandra and his activities only as presented by Tattvadarshis, those who know the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 4:34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarsinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is a Tattvadarshi in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, Some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities are described in terms of one's own imaginations, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Shukadev Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit, "You have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, and there are many still. But we must select only those books written by Tattvadarshis, Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha, not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate. This is a warning by Shukadev Goswami. Rishibhis Tattvadarshibihi. Although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Shukadev Goswami in a few verses. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Sthapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadbhuta Tadvadutam Swarijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Bancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Ram. So Srila Prabhupada starts out this purport that those mundane scholars who try to tell you that Lord Ramachandra is just some fictional character, a legend or a mythology, or that he was some hero that they made stories about or something, but he was not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he compares them to modern-day Rakshasas. I met in Berkeley, I was taking some classes in the South Asian Studies department there, and I met one Sanskrit professor who took this very personally. She was very upset that Srila Prabhupada had said this. But she fit the description, which is that, the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he comes to earth in different Leela avatars, are especially meant for understanding by the devotees. And for those who are not devotees, who don't have bhakti, and who are not submissive, and who don't have a spiritual master, and who don't actually practice devotional service, and who don't have the mood of austerity, they won't be able to understand these pastimes at all. For them, it will just seem like some fanciful story. Talking monkeys and bears and people carrying mountains and floating them on the water. This is just, that to them, they can't understand it. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead can do something so wonderful. But actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just floating rocks on the ocean, he's floating planets in the sky. There's a story once, Narada Muni met a cobbler, and the cobbler asked him, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I'm going to see Lord Vishnu." And the cobbler said, "Will you please ask him for me how long I have to live in before I get liberated and go back to the spiritual world. So he said, okay. And then he met a learned Pandit, and the Pandit also said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to see Lord Vishnu. And he said, oh, please ask him for me when I will be liberated and leave this material world and go back to spiritual world. And he said, okay, I will ask him. So then when he came back, he saw the Pandit, and the Pandit said, oh, did you see Vishnu? Yes, I did. Did you tell him did you ask him about me? Yes, I did. What did he say? Well, it will be many thousands of births before you can be liberated. So the Pandit became a little skeptical, He was proud, so he became a little bit offended. He said, what was he doing when you saw him? And Narada Muni said, he was putting an elephant through the eye of a needle. So the Pandit said, I knew you didn't really see him. Nobody can do that. That's ridiculous. So then when he saw the humble cobbler, who was from humble social status, and the cobbler said, oh, did you see my Lord Vishnu? And Narada Muni said, yes, I did. Oh, that's so wonderful. Did you ask him about me? Oh, yes, I did. What did he say? You will be going back to the spiritual world at the end of this lifetime. Oh, I'm so fortunate. How could I be so successful? What was he doing? Tell me what he was doing when you saw him. Oh, he was taking an elephant and putting it through the eye of a needle. So the humble cobbler said, oh, that's so wonderful. My Lord does so many wonderful things. I always love to hear about what he's doing. So Narada Muni said, what is this? You don't have any doubt about him putting an elephant through the eye of a needle? And the cobbler said, oh, no, not at all. He can do anything. Just see, this big banyan tree here was once in a little acorn. So so my Lord, he can do anything, and nothing is wonderful for him to do. So if we understand who God really is, what God really is, then we will see that even conquering Lanka and all the different wonderful pastimes of Lord Ramacandra, stringing and breaking the bow of Lord Shiva, and so many wonderful pastimes, defeating Parashuram even. Parashuram didn't like the Kshatriyas so much, but Lord Ramacandra was able to defeat him. So these are not wonderful for God to do. These things are not wonderful. God performs these wonderful activities for us just because as devotees we're pleased to hear about these activities, and they increase our faith, they increase our love, they increase that relationship that is the only way to understand Lord Ramacandra. And those who are not devotees, they find it inaccessible. However big scholars they may be by material estimation, and how many papers they've written and studied, archaeology and history and all these different subjects. But if they're not tattvadarshis, then they have nothing to say about Krishna or Rama or the pastimes of Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami tells the sages at Naimisharanya that hearing about the activities of Krishna is especially purifying. Hearing in the association among devotees. Right? Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We're all gathered here today because we're faithful devotees. And we like to discuss these pastimes, and we don't scoff and doubt and criticize. And that kind of hearing among faithful devotees and reading Srila Prabhupada's books together is very, very powerful. Just like chanting Krishna's holy names is very, very powerful medicine. It goes in the ear and it cleans out the dirty things in the heart that are the cause of all our distress. And Sutta Goswami says, Bhava yatyesha satvena lokan vai loka bhavitaha lilavatara devatir yan naradishu. That the Lord, the Supreme Lord, He comes, He's maintaining all the universes and demigods. He's coming to, in His Leela avatars, to purify the devotees and protect the devotees who hear about them and become purified and become happy on hearing these pastimes. So I wanted to read some things. There's many, many passages in here that Srila Prabhupada and Shukadeva Goswami describe Lord Ramacandra. But there's some things, I have about a half an hour left, some things I'd like to read. Text number, you can read along with me, text number 50 in the same chapter 10. I may have read this last year or the year before. Agrahid asanang pratra, pranipatya prasaditaha, praja swadharma nirata, varnashrama gunanvitaha, jugopa pitrivadramo menire pitarang chatam. Translation, being pleased by the full surrender and submission of Lord Bharata, Lord Ramacandra then accepted the throne of the state. He cared for the citizens exactly like a father, and the citizens, being fully engaged in their occupational duties of Varna and Ashrama, accepted him as their father. Purport. People are very fond of the pattern of Rama Rajya, and even today politicians sometimes form a party called Rama Rajya. But unfortunately they have no obedience to Lord Rama. It is sometimes said that people want the kingdom of God without God. Such an aspiration, however, is never to be fulfilled. Good government can exist when the relationship between the citizens and the government is like that exemplified by Lord Ramacandra and his citizens. Lord Ramacandra ruled his kingdom exactly as a father takes care of his children, and the citizens, being obliged to the good government of Lord Ramacandra, accepted the Lord as their father. Thus, the relationship between the citizens and the government should be exactly like that between father and son. There's a description here in Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Ramacandra performed a great sacrifice. And at the sacrifice, he began bestowing charity upon the brahmanas and the priests who helped him perform the sacrifice. And he gave them everything. And he and Sita gave them all her jewels and all his things. They gave all the land and everything to the brahmanas until they only had the clothes they were wearing. And I think she had one little nose ring or something like that. And the brahmanas, then being real brahmanas and not materialistic at all, they considered that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so we should give it all back to him. So if we should worship God with our wealth, brahmanas don't want to keep any wealth, they want to worship God. So they all gave it back to him. But he was demonstrating the charitable mood of a genuine Kshatriya Rajarshi. Pardon me, I can't see very well. When the sons in a family are well trained, they are obedient to the father and mother. And when the father is well qualified, he takes good care of the children. As indicated here by the words Swadharma Nirata, Varnashrama Gunanvataha, the people were good citizens because they accepted the institution of Varna and Ashrama, which arranges society in the Varna divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the Ashrama divisions of Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. This is actual human civilization. People must be trained according to the different Varnashrama occupational duties. As confirmed, we should understand that these Varnashrama duties are not any means of one group of society exploiting any other group or mistreating any group, but these are the natural way human society is organized, the different divisions of labor, so that everyone works in cooperation and harmony and peace under the protection of a great king like Lord Ramacandra and wise brahmanas like Vishvamitra, Vishishta, and other advisors of Lord Rama. This is the actual human civilization. People must be trained according to the different occupational duties. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chatur Varnyam Mayashrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. The four Varnas must be established according to varying qualities and work. The first principle for good government is that it must institute this Varnashrama system. The purpose of Varnashrama is to enable people to become God-conscious. Varnashrama charavata, purushena parakpuman vishnur aradhyate. The entire Varnashrama scheme is intended to enable people to become Vaishnavas. Vishnur asya devata. When people worship Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Lord, they become Vaishnavas. Thus, people should be trained to become Vaishnavas through the system of Varna and Ashrama, as they were during the reign of Lord Ramacandra, when everyone was fully trained to follow the Varnashram principles. Simply enforcing laws and ordinances cannot make the citizens obedient and lawful. That is impossible. Throughout the entire world, there are so many states, legislative assemblies, and parliaments, but still the citizens are rogues and thieves. Good citizenship, therefore, cannot be enforced. The citizens must be trained. As there are schools and colleges to train students to become chemical engineers, lawyers, or specialists in many other departments of knowledge, there must be schools and colleges to train students to become brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, shudras, brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. This will provide the preliminary condition for good citizenship, varnashrama gunanvataha. Generally speaking, if the king or president is a rajarshi, the relationship between the citizens and the chief executive will be clear, and there will be no possibility of disruption in the state, because the number of thieves and rogues will decrease. In Kali Yuga, however, because the varnashrama system is neglected, people are generally thieves and rogues. In the system of democracy, soon such thieves and rogues naturally collect money from other thieves and rogues, and thus there is chaos in every government, and no one is happy. But here the example of good government is to be found in the reign of Lord Ramacandra. If people follow this example, there will be good government all over the world. So Lord Ramacandra, the Lord comes to earth, he plays like a human being, and he plays like an ideal man, an ideal king. He takes a vow of only having one wife, and he demonstrates how he punishes those who transgress dharma, those who steal what's not theirs, right? And the citizens love him just like their father, and he loves the citizens just like their father, and he protects them and cares for them, and it does everything excellently. So we can love God in different ways, as a servant, as a friend, even as our child or as our lover. But the natural position underlying all of this is that everyone is a servant, right? Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. We're all servants. And so naturally, it's natural to think of God as a father or a king. Even in Christianity, sometimes the Christmas carols I learned as a child, they would say, glory to the newborn king, that, because God has come as a human, he's naturally accepted as a king, or Messiah, the idea of, in Hebrew, king. So this is when God comes as Lord Rama, he shows the ideal relationship of the king to his citizens, and there's so much love there. That's the important thing, that it's not a matter of legislation and enforcing rules and what does Srila Prabhupada say? Ordinances. I'm a lawyer. It turns out that when you have to try to control everything by laws, the laws have to multiply, and the interpretations of the laws and the regulations of the laws multiply more and more. But if people actually are trained in Dharma, then they naturally know how to behave and how to respect one another and how to exchange love in relationships with one another, and how to live without encroaching on the property or rights of others. So Lord Ramacandra teaches that. We will have, after this lecture, an announcement about the Sankirtan festival and what the devotees did when they went out to distribute knowledge about Lord Ramacandra, Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya to the people all over. So many years ago, when Lord Ramacandra was here in Treta Yuga, there was one big Ravana, or there was a big group of Rakshasas with Kumbhakarna and all these big, bad People eaters. They were actually people eaters. human eaters, man eaters. But nowadays, there are little Ravanas, people with doctorates who deny that Rama is the personality of Godhead. And we all have a little bit of envy and unclean things in ourselves that have to be purified. So the devotees are going out to distribute the glories of Rama, chanting the holy names of Rama, giving books by Tattvadarshis, by Srila Prabhupada, that describe the personality of Godhead and how we can reestablish our relationship with Him through bhakti yoga. And in this way, this is the way that the Lord is killing Ravana today. Not with bows and arrows or brahmastras, but by Sankirtan. In fact, in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is it the 12th or the 11th? Now I'm forgetting. The 11th, I think. One of the Yogendras is explaining to King Nimi. He says that, he says that Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam Sango Pangashtra Parshadam Yagyayar Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedhasaha. That in this age of Kali, that Krishna will come as Lord Chaitanya. And he brings his weapons and his associates, but his weapons aren't the same kind of weapons that he used when he was Lord Chaitanya. But he brings weapons of Krishna Prasadam, Krishna Kirtan, beautiful deity worship, nice association of devotees. Srila Prabhupada wrote in Nectar of Instruction that this whole International Society for Krishna Consciousness is established to give people the opportunity to associate with devotees in these 6 ways of dadati, pratigrinati, guhyam akyati prichati, bhunkte bhojayate chaiva shadvidhang priti lakshanam. So people come, they take prasadam with us, we discuss Prabhupada's books with them, and they discuss with us, and their devotees. We get the association of devotees, so this is very nice. And that will train us to be good citizens. I wanted to read this one other section, verse number 20. I'll just read the English translation. Lord Ramachandra's reputation for having killed Ravana with showers of arrows at the request of the demigods, and for having built a bridge over the ocean, does not constitute the factual glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, whose spiritual body is always engaged in various pastimes. Lord Ramachandra has no equal or superior, and therefore he had no need to take help from the monkeys to gain victory over Ravana. Purport. As stated, this is verse number 20. I'm sorry, I thought it was up there. It's Canto 9, chapter 10, verse 20. Chapter 11. I'm sorry. Verse 20. Shall I read it again? No, okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Vedas, Svetashvatara Upanishad 6.8, Natasya karyang karanang cha vidyate, natatsamash cha pyadikascha drishyate, parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate, swabhaviki jnana bala kriya cha. The Supreme Lord has nothing to do, and no one is found to be equal to or greater than him, for everything is done naturally and systematically by his multifarious energies. The Lord has nothing to do, natasya karyang karanang cha vidyate. Whatever he does is his pastime. The Lord has no duty to perform to oblige anyone. Nonetheless, he appears to act to protect his devotees or kill his enemies. Of course, no one can be the Lord's enemy, since who could be more powerful than the Lord? There is actually no question of anyone being his enemy. But when the Lord wants to take pleasure in pastimes, he comes down to this material world and acts like a human being, thus showing his wonderful, glorious activities to please the devotees. His devotees always want to see the Lord victorious in various activities, and therefore, to please himself, And then the Lord sometimes agrees to act as a human being and perform wonderful, uncommon pastimes for the satisfaction of devotees. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks Krishna to describe his glories by which he enters the universe and to describe the different glorious features. And Krishna says, my glories are unlimited, endless, so I'll just tell you some of them, a few of the prominent examples. And then he says, of the many stars in the sky, I am the moon. Of the, what are some of the different things? Of the wielders of weapon, I am Rama. Of the bodies of water, I am the ocean. Of the mountain ranges, the mountains, I am Meru. Of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. And he goes on secret things, I am silence. Of different kinds of cheating, I am gambling. And of different, he goes on. Of the administrative devas, I am Indra. And of the siddhas, I am Kapila. And of the great thinkers, I am Ushana. And so forth. He gives so many descriptions. Of the horses, I am Uchaishrava, born of nectar. But he says, what use is there for all this detailed description, because just with a single fragment of myself I pervade the entire universe, and everything that's glorious and powerful and opulent in creation is just a reflection of just a spark of my splendor. Therefore, you can't understand me, you can only understand through these things. So, the Lord comes in a form that we can understand, actually to satisfy His devotees' love for Him, that they want a relationship with Him in that way. Those who don't want a relationship with Him, He gives them over to His external energy, and they suffer birth and death in Maya. But those who want a relationship with Him in a certain loving relationship, He comes just in a way to satisfy their heart's desire. When Lord Ramacandra walked through the forest in Dandakaranya, some of the sages were meditating there, and when they saw how beautiful he was, they desired to have a loving relationship with him, and so they came as gopis in Krishna's Leela and got to dance with him in the rasa dance. So Lord Ramachandra's mood is one of great beauty, of chivalry, of honor. He's an ideal king, kshatriya. Kshatriyas are very honorable. They have these qualities described by Krishna of Ishvara Bhava, Dana, courage and so many fortitude, so many of these qualities. And the love of Lord Ramacandra is very sweet and deep, imbued with these qualities. And his devotees like Hanuman and Sugriva and Jambavan and so many devotees, even if they're not even from human civilization, they're from forest creatures, but they have great bhakti sentiments that are most worshipable and relishable. And we can aspire to follow in their footsteps and have such mood and such sentiment. So this, we should understand that the Lord is not just some hero. He's not just, this is being described by Shukadev Goswami here. He's not just some wonderful hero. Sometimes they want to make movies about Ramacandra. I know there was a Japanese animated cartoon about the pastimes of Lord Ramacandra, and they took the story, but they made him into like a Japanese cartoon hero. So there wasn't any bhakti there wasn't any real bhava in the story. As Srila Prabhupada was explaining before, to hear about Krishna's pastimes, we should hear from pure devotees. And the pure devotees can impart the knowledge to us of what we're hearing. How Janma Karma Chame Divyam, we were saying Sunday feast. Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evang Yoveti Tatpataha Tyaktva Dehang Punar Janma Naiti Mamiti, so Arjuna. If one actually understands the nature of Krishna's appearance and activities, just like today we're celebrating the birth of Lord Rama. But of course, Rama is also Aja. He's never born. After his pastimes, he went to Ayodhya with all his devotees. The impersonalists might have some idea that he then became impersonal and merged with the Brahma Jyoti or something, but this is a wrong idea. The devotees explain to us that he's always a person and he has these loving relationships with his devotees, and they always worship him in their mood of service and love. Hare Krishna. So if we can actually understand his qualities, the transcendental nature of his activities and his birth. His activities are not material activities. They're not caused by anything. He doesn't have, as we read here, he doesn't have any duties to perform. But he performs to set an example for others. And similarly, great devotees also perform duties to set examples, to set a good example for the common people to lead. Can you bring up Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse number 15, please? And could someone hand me a Bhagavad Gita, please? So in verse number 15, Purvayarapi mumukshubhihi. What did he say? In verse number 14, he said, Namang karmani limpanti name karma pale spriha iti mangyo bijanati karma bhir nisabhadyate. And then in verse number 15, he said, Evang gyatva kritang karma purvayarapi mumukshubhihi kuru karmaiva tasmat tvam purvatarang kritam. That many saintly persons in the past, all the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. That is, that he's not bound by any karma, right? There's no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruit of reactions of work. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. He's explaining to Arjuna, Arjuna is saying, if I know that I'm not this body, then why should I do any activities with my body? And Krishna is saying, you should still do it to set a good example. And here he's explaining, let me read this purport, it's a wonderful purport. There are two classes of men. Some of them are full of polluted material things within their hearts, and some of them are materially free. Krishna consciousness is equally beneficial for both of these persons. Those who are full of dirty things can take to the line of Krishna consciousness for a gradual cleansing process, following the regulative principles of devotional service. Even if we can't follow everything in Krishna consciousness, if we practice, Krishna will protect us and liberate us, and we'll become free from all our anarthas later. Those who are already cleansed of the impurities may continue to act in the same Krishna consciousness so that others may follow their exemplary activities and thereby be benefited. Just as Krishna appears as Lord Rama and performs exemplary activities, so the pure devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so many great devotees have similarly acted to set an example for everyone. Foolish persons or neophytes in Krishna consciousness often want to retire from activities without having knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Arjuna's desire to retire from activities on the battlefield was not approved by the Lord. One need only know how to act. To retire from the activities of Krishna consciousness and to sit aloof, making a show of Krishna consciousness, is less important than actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna. Rama, when he came back to Ayodhya and he accepted the throne, he sent his brothers out to conquer different places. I don't know which one. One of them, Shatrughna, I think, went to Mathura and established the capital there. But they went out to different places. We're supposed to also go out and distribute Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada is encouraging. Arjuna is here advised to act in Krishna consciousness following in the footsteps of the Lord's previous disciples, such as the sun god Vivaswan, as mentioned herein before. Krishna also mentioned Janaka, one of the great Mahajans, father of Sita Devi. The Supreme Lord knows all his past activities as well as those of persons who acted in Krishna consciousness in the past. Therefore, he recommends the acts of the sun god, who learned this art from the Lord some millions of years before. All such students of Lord Krishna are mentioned here as past liberated persons engaged in the discharge of duties allotted by Krishna. So in that dynasty of Ikshwaku appeared Raghu, Dasharath, and Lord Ramacandra. And this Bhagavad Gita is the Raja Vidya, the royal knowledge that Krishna gave to the sun god many years before, and now he's giving to Arjuna. And we can take this knowledge also in the way that Arjuna accepted it as a devotee. And if we follow these teachings about who God really is in the line of Arjuna, then we can understand the pastimes of Rama, and we can distribute that understanding to other people like our Sankirtan devotees are doing. So we have a few minutes for questions before we have or comments and discussion before we have the announcement of the Sankirtan festival results. Anyone have some comments or questions? Jai Sitaram. I'm sorry I didn't tell a lot of leelas, but anyway, please.
Hare Krishna, very nice points you told today in the lecture. These are actually, even though not pastimes, but these are actually very effective for our life too, in practice of Krishna consciousness. So you were telling about Ram Rajya in the purport. Srila Prabhupada was also quoted like, these are the things needed to establish Ram Rajya. So in that, to establish Ram Rajya, like what is the most important thing you think, or from the purport we can take? Because I was thinking like Deva Varnashram system which ISKCON is trying to implement, how that is related to the common mass people, because Ram Rajya is for everyone. It's not only for the devotees, it's for everyone. So how we can implement, or what can be done for that?
But the purport also says that Varnashrama is meant to make everyone into Vaishnavas. So I think the most important thing is to chant Hare Krishna, to distribute the chanting of the holy name. In this age, what was done in previous ages by big sacrifices and gorgeous deity worship and mystic yoga practice can be done very simply by chanting Hare Krishna. So that's the important thing. Unless the point is that unless the citizens can actually develop the qualities of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras, they won't be able to live harmoniously according to the Vedic system of society. So Srila Prabhupada encouraged us to establish colleges where we could train people as Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, and some of his disciples are trying to do that. I thought, how will we do that? What kind of college could I start and teach people how to be Kshatriyas? Do I teach them to shoot bows and arrows, or do I teach them like to go to West Point and learn how to do modern warfare, or what? But they should have these qualities of being like a father to the citizen. Those are the important things, the most important things. Yes, they should know about military science, and yes, they should know about rhetoric and making speeches and governing people, but the important thing is they have to be devotees, and they have to. Krishna says in chapter 4 that when you've learned the truth from a pure devotee, from a tattvadarshi, then yena bhutanya sheshani drakshasya yatomayi. You see that all living entities are part of me, that they're in me and they're mine. When you've thus learned the truth, you'll never again fall into illusion, because that's how you see every living being. You don't see enemy, friend, Republican, Democrat, or whatever. You see spirit, soul, in different kind of conditionings. Brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva supakecha panditak samadarshana. I promised my wife I wouldn't move my hands around this much. But it's my guna, my nature, my whatever. So we have to be trained that, we have these material bodies, we have these material natures and habits and qualities, and we can use them together. So I want to leave you with this, one very good book by Srila Prabhupada that often goes neglected, because Srila Prabhupada established Srimad Bhagavatam class every morning and Bhagavad Gita class every evening. So all Srila Prabhupada's disciples are past masters in those two books. But one of his books is called Sri Ishopanishad, where Srila Prabhupada translates and comments on this 18 verses of Ishopanishad. And in there he discusses this philosophy of spiritual communism, the Isha Vasyamidang Sarvang Yatkincha Jagatyang Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bunjita Magridha Kasya Svidhanam. And he explains how the system works. So if we want to understand better about an ideal civilization based on the scientific principles of the Vedas, I recommend that we study that Ishopanishad very closely. It shouldn't be considered like, Hinduism, Hindu nationalism, Hindu fundamentalism, or something like that. It's scientific, and it's not backward looking into the past or trying to recreate some ancient civilization from the past. It actually should be forward looking, that this is a description of the scientific principles in human society that promote justice. We can look at the great philosophers of the past. Even Western philosophers like Plato and others have discussed similar principles. And we can become experts in reading all the social philosophers, of whether it's Durkheim and Weber or the old Machiavelli and whoever. But we should understand these things from the perspective of the Tattvadarshi, Srila Prabhupada, and understand how we can try to implement that to create a great society. But the real great society, just like when I was a child in the 60s, Lyndon Baines Johnson was the president, and he was a worshiper, a follower, let's say, of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who established a social welfare system in a modern society. And he created a system called the Great Society, that the war on poverty, if we're one of the richest countries in the world and most powerful military countries in the world, why should we have people who are still hungry, people who are still poor? Let's establish a system where we can be the Great Society. But, like Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, you can't have the kingdom of God without God. And the really great society is the society of Vaishnavas. And even if you live simply and you don't have a lot of luxuries, if you have that purpose of life of serving Krishna and loving God, then you'll be very, very happy. Patram pushpam palang toyam yome bhakta pranashiti tadaham bhakti paritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. So if we can establish this principle first of loving Krishna, of chanting Krishna's holy names, a devotee can be happy anywhere. Even in prison, you're chanting holy names and you're in bliss. Tears come out of your eyes. You're just in bliss. When a friend of mine was arrested, when the devotees were trying to establish the temple in Juhu, there was a big problem with a person who had donated the land but was trying to take it back, and they made politics about it. And when there was a demonstration because of these politics, somebody got killed. One of the demonstrators got killed by a chokidar there. The devotees weren't involved. The Western devotees weren't involved. But the Western devotees were arrested and taken into prison, and they had demagogues who were out showing bloody shirts and saying, we have to do something. These foreigners come here and they kill our people or whatever. But the devotees were led by one great sannyasi named Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Sridhar Maharaj. And they were there in this horrible, filthy prison, crowded, and there was no place to use the restroom or anything like that. But every morning they did the whole morning program in their mind. They worshiped the deities. He said, you can worship. So now it's time for the monthly Sankirtan festival offering. So thank you very much for a wonderful question. All glories to Lord Ramacandra, and all glories to the Sankirtan devotees of Lord Ramacandra.